vibrate right now. My phone's going on vibrate, right? And I'm texting my clients that to contact my TC for any questions or admin or to wait an hour because I'm in a very important class. Maybe you guys should do it too. I'm just kidding, guys. Well, thank you so much. And I don't know if you know this, but in the crowd, not only do we have a lot of art on top producers here with our office, we have a lot of agents that are not with KW yet that are also top producers. And we have plenty of guests that are here today. I want to call them out, so I want to stand up really quick. We'll welcome you. Let's give them a KW welcome. If you're not with KW, you're visiting us. Stand up to our guests. Stand up for our guests here. Vote. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Woo!
There's a lot of
you. Welcome. Welcome to our office. And welcome. I'm ready to learn from you. I'm so excited. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
So, fun fact, how did you meet Sophia? She came up and you talked to her on a bench?
She was sitting on the bench and we were waiting for a taxi at family reunion.
So I know she is.
And she reeled me in.
So always be prospecting, right, y'all? But that's how the best connections are made.
Yeah, it was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we had a really long conversation because it took them forever. And
the best of an uncomfortable situation.
It wasn't uncomfortable at all. She's very pleasant.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You guys have a great person in your office.
Thank you. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that because she's my mom, right? She's amazing.
I didn't know that until today either.
Yeah. She's like, how do you know so much about Sophia? I was like, oh, she's my mom. I was like, oh, I just followed her for like all my life.
You never know.
Since I was little, I just followed her. So
you never know.
No, but really. So a little bit about you. What industry did you come from, like before real estate?
So I have a background in marketing. I have a degree in marketing from Western Washington University. And I was hired before real estate to work for Wynn Home Inspections. And I was the regional director for pretty much all of Western Washington. Wow. I covered all their accounts. I knew all their real estate agents. And so I had to go to all of their classes and because we often sponsored them. So I got to sit in a room like this, listen to people talk. And I'm like, I could do that. And so when I moved to California, honestly, I was bored, and my husband had just deployed. I'm a military spouse, and I'm like, well, thank you, thank you. But he had just deployed, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm bored. I need to go do something. So I found my one and only friend in California, which I had only met a few days beforehand, and said, hey, you wanna get your real estate license with me? There's a class. And so we went and got licensed together. And I thought, oh, shoot, well, she's the only contact I have. I can't sell it to her. I can't sell her. So what am I going to do? And so that's really kind of where I came from. But it was good. You know, I was thrown into the mix with all these people who really in the Antelope Valley, they all have been there for a very long time. And I was brand new. So I was forced to lead generate and really step outside that comfort zone, and it worked.
So Washington, is that where you're from?
I am. I'm from a little town called Port Angeles.
Port Angeles. That's right outside of Oak Harbor, right?
Yep.
I've been stationed there. I was stationed on Whidbey Island. I know I talked to you a little bit. One of my favorite duty stations, the Pacific Northwest, is actually really pretty. So, did you and your husband meet there, like when you were in Washington?
We did. He was active duty. I was actually just divorced and from another military person, and I told myself I'd never do that again. And I found one of 10 Marines on the entire island.
I know, how'd you find a Marine there?
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Were they lost? That's probably how you found them.
I'm pretty sure they were. I'm going to let him know that. But, you know, I wasn't anticipating that. And so it ended up, I mean, it worked out, obviously. I'm married to him.
Some of
he
the
kept
most
me around.
Things are not anticipated in life, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's kind of interesting how things guide you in that way. You didn't know anyone in California, and now a little bit for you guys to know, how much units did you sell last year?
I did 70 units last year.
How much GCI was that?
Just over 700,000, 766,000.
Yeah, and you really impressed me because in this quarter one, what's your GCI so far?
401,000.
So in this first quarter, you've made 401,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's really incredible.
Let's
give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank
2 zeros after the 7. You said over 700,000 last year.
Yes. Yes.
Who wants to be making those numbers, like hitting those numbers? No one? Me?
You can do
it. There you go. There you go. Keep your hands up. 100%. Oh, so you and your husband meet. You have children?
I do. I have a teenager. He's 15. He's self-sufficient, so it makes it really easy to do a lot of this stuff. But when I started, he was new to the community. Obviously we didn't have a support system. So it was just him and me, and husband was deployed, and so we made do, and now he's self-sufficient. He stays at home and he does whatever he wants. But at the time it was like, okay, well, let's do it while he's at school.
Awesome.
So
you have a lot of drive, because to be like the director of a whole region, where did that come from? Like, how was your childhood? Like, did you have to grind? Was money tight? There's got to be some kind of drive to that. Right?
I grew up in a family full of entrepreneurs. My parents at one point owned 3 corporations across Western Washington.
Wow.
And so I literally grew up in there. I can remember as a small child being sick, and you didn't get to stay at home. You got to sleep in what was called the petticoats. And they would put things in boxes, and you would sleep in the petticoats and take your nap. And it was because they were hustlers. They always worked. And so I've been around entrepreneurs my entire life, and they created a beautiful life for themselves, and it was kind of like the role model for me as a young child.
That's incredible, and it completely shows, and it shows that numbers speak for themselves, right? So
yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So let's go back a little bit. First of all, you have a 15-year-old son. I'm sure he's spoiled and loved, right? Is that any kid?
Loved, not very spoiled though.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good, because most in Hispanic families, I don't know if you know, the men are always spoiled. So I think it's just a cultural thing, but
he's not spoiled at all.
You're all supposed to laugh at that point. Jeez, every strict. I'm just kidding.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, they're like, everybody here's like, what are you talking about? No, I'm just kidding. But so going back into your real estate license here in California, you didn't know anyone. So how was that first year in real estate, really?
Oh my goodness. So the best thing that I could say from the very beginning is I didn't wait for my license. I went to the KW, and that's where I did the schooling, and I asked, can I join your Ignite group? And they're like, well, you're not licensed yet. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. Let me do it. And so the first 3 weeks, I'm just doing the activities, but I'm not actually licensed. And in that time, I'm having conversations with people, and you have to go and talk to people, and they're like, oh, call your sphere of influence. And I'm like, my sphere of influence lives all over the world. Because I'm a military spouse. I lived in Japan even. Wow. And I spent a lot of my adult years in Japan. So I didn't have a lot of people who were local. So I'm like, shoot, how am I going to do this? I can remember in those first couple of weeks, I went into Old Navy and was like, hey, I see you're liking that shirt. You need to buy a house. And those things worked, and my first deal actually came from my purse. I was in the grocery store. I had been newly licensed for 2 or 3 days, and this girl behind me says, oh, I really love your purse. I have the same one at home. And we found out that she lives directly behind me. And she's like, here's my Facebook, here's my phone number. And I'm like, okay, all right. You're giving me lots of information. I love this. And it was only a couple days later, and I didn't even have a real estate conversation with her. It was a couple days later, I saw on her Facebook, she had posted, hey, does anybody know anything about daycares in Tehachapi? And I'm like, I can find out. And this is late at night when I see this. I see this at probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it's not appropriate to call her at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but I was jumping out of my seat trying to get myself in a position where I could have a real estate conversation with her. So I just used YouTube at that point. I went on YouTube and I was like, what can I do as a script? And I called her the next morning and I said, hey, remember me, the girl with the purse? I know about Tehachapi. Are you thinking about moving up there? Because I'm a real estate agent. She's like, oh my gosh, do you want to sell my house? Do you want to help me buy a house? I'm like, absolutely. I know nothing. I literally don't even have my MLS access at this point. I'm like, okay, let me go over to the association, go get my MLS access. I'm going to send you properties tonight. And I sent her, I think 2 or 3 houses. It wasn't very many. Didn't know how to get somebody pre-approved. Didn't know how to do anything but the test at this point and whatever Ignite told me what to do. And so I decided that I was going to like, all right, we're going to fake it until we make it. She didn't know I was she was my first client until almost a year later.
Wow.
She loved me so much, and I cultivated that relationship. It turned into, well, buy and sell for her, but I've closed probably 12 plus deals with people from her sphere of influence that have now become my sphere of influence. I mean, that's more than $100,000 in GCI right there, just from one person.
That's from taking that plunge to not be ready to be ready.
Oh, yeah.
You just said, I'm going to learn as I go. You just went for it.
Yeah.
And you learned on the way.
Mm-hmm. And I was told that in the very beginning, when we all sat around and they said, well, what do you want to make? And I said, like 100,000. And they're like, no, you don't know anybody. You would be okay with like 30, 40,000. I did $240,000 GCI my first year.
Yes! That's really impressive.
Well, thank you.
I would never say that to you. Or any of you guys. Right? I'm always like, bring up your goal, but it kind of is how the same way I was raised, right? With a broker.
Yeah.
So that's really, really impressive, and it's just like kind of shows you that it's a good reminder for some people to not be afraid to have those conversations, because you never know what situation may happen, right?
Yeah.
So your first year in, you go to KW, and how did you do it? Were you by yourself? Would you hire an admin? How did you grow and scale up from that first year?
I did everything wrong, guys. So I did 32 transactions my first year, and I didn't have my own TC. We did the office TC at first because they were like Cyberbacker. They were overseas, and we did those for the first like 15, 16 transactions. And then I finally hired a TC at the end of that year when I literally was bursting. And I can tell you my number one tip would be not to wait that long. Actually hire your admin beforehand, before you're stressed out, because they are worth every penny. And same with your TC, because the leverage you get is just unreal. And so I waited until I was stressed, and I left business on the table my first year. My second year, I closed 51 transactions and made $420,000, I believe. And I still didn't have any real leverage. I only had a TC. I had a TC only for 2019. Wow. And then in 2020, that's when I was attempting to make my first hire. And my first hire, I was going through the KPA process, doing everything right, and COVID hit. Yeah. And I made decisions out of pain, which you should not do. Never. And I hired a girl without really looking at what her KPA was really telling me. And I really think it's very true. Like my MAPS coach would tell me, like, you need to interview like 30, 40 people, like go through this big long process. And I'm thinking, I don't have time for that. Like, I can't give that much of my time away to do this. Yes, you can.
What was the cost of that bad hire? You guys
it cost me so much. I hired a company to even headhunt for me because I didn't have any time. Because I had done 51 transactions the year before. That year I did, the year of COVID, I did 64. And I had no leverage. And this girl comes in, and she was the wrong fit. I hired a company, and they pushed me to accept her, and didn't play devil's advocate with me, and like they should have. And I had to pay them, $2,000 to headhunt, and then I was like another $5,000 to train her. So that's $7,000 before she even starts. Mm-hmm. And then I was told, the third month, because they tell you this entire time, if it's not the right fit, you can let her go. We'll start again. It doesn't cost you anything. That was wrong. It was not true, and it cost me that time, the training, and a lot of frustration and probably business because I was spending so much time training her, and it was disastrous. And so she ended up leaving just after her 90 days. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. I can be completely solo with a TC. I'm never doing it again. I hate this. And so that's what I did for a very long time. And then I hired my second admin. She was from my sphere of influence. And she was my previous client. And my heart was like, oh, I want to help you. Again, probably not the best decision. She is an amazing person, a wonderful person, great friend even. Mm-hmm. But it was not something that would work for her, and because of the distance that she was commuting, and I should have laid into that question more. And again, I didn't do enough KPAs. I only did probably 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And then it was an aha that I had at Gary's meeting, and he said, you build the bench. And man, I took that to heart because I was like, I have to build this bench. I am tired of making bad hires that are wrong for me, wrong for my business, wrong for my clients, and it's costing me thousands of dollars. And you don't know this about me, but I'm a penny pincher, and I do not like to spend money at all. This is why my kid is not spoiled. He doesn't get any of the fun stuff.
That's good.
Yes. But I was tired of really kind of throwing my money out the window because I'm like, the first person that seems like it might be a good fit, I just rolled with it. And so I took what he said to heart. He said, build a bench. And he went over the whole process and what he had gone through. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I had heard it from my map. Right? Well, I had gone to the career visioning course. I had gone and talked to my MAPS coaches about it, but they were all like, oh, just keep interviewing. Just keep interviewing. If it's not the right fit, keep interviewing. And I think I just needed to hear it more in depth. And it was 2 days of this. And I'm like, you were just hammer this into my head. Okay, I got you. And so I went home and I put an ad on Indeed, and I blocked out in my calendar between 2 and 4 hours of just plain interviews every other day. I was like, I can focus on at least having 2 to 3 days a week where I'm going to do 2 to 4 hours of kind of lead generation for my own staff. Mm-hmm. And it was very hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's very time consuming. I wanted to give up so many times because you think that you're getting a great hire. You're like, oh my gosh, they have all the right answers. And then you get to their motivation, or they get to the life story, and you're like, this person's crazy. And we're not gonna mix. And so
you have to go through the steps,
exactly.
Right?
And so I told myself the things that were most important to me is, one, they have to be people who are willing to learn and grow, and 2, they want to hustle as much as I want to hustle.
There's 4 mega agent guests in the room. They don't know what career vision is, KPA.
Yeah. So.
They're not with KW.
Oh my gosh, you need to go to it. I don't know. Can you go to it if you're not KW?
I sent it. So KPA, I sent it to a couple of people here, but let me know. I'll send it to you, Rudy. I'll send it to you guys. So the KPA stands for Keller Williams Personnel Assessment. My ALC has completed it. It's pretty accurate, right, Miguel? I did it with you before you came over. So it's a Keller Williams Personnel Assessment, and what it does is it digs deep into who you are as a person, and that's something that we have to send to you. And I will gladly do that. The other process that she's talking about for the hiring is called career visioning, and that's something that we are going to host here in the Market Center. It was going to be June, but we're pushing it back to July.
Yes, we're launching Bold in June.
Because Bold's happening in June. So in July, we'll have career visioning here in our Market Center, and I'm obviously going to invite you guys that are here in the crowd and everybody here. And that is just going to save you, and it's literally, we're going to call it the cost of avoiding a bad hire, because that's what she's saying. It's just hiring out of need, desperation. A lot of people do that sometimes. They hire people they know, friends or family.
Yeah, but I want to add the career visioning process. It's a 6 1-hour interview process commitment.
Yes.
So that's
It's
the tedious part.
so
And
long.
all of us in the room, the top producers in the room, all of you guys know that we cannot imagine stopping to work for an hour to go interview someone. Like when my coach told me, Sophia, you don't hire the best 1-on-1. You need 10 candidates for each role. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot hire someone. So it's a process, but it's a Harvard level, created by Gary Keller hiring process that takes you through exactly how to hire, like at a Fortune 50 level. And we train, no other brokerage in the industry teaches people how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's really, so tell us a little bit about your experience with career vision.
So I took it very young realtor time frame. I took it my first year. And I took it with the intention of, I know I'm going to hire again. And I loved that what they said in that career visioning, and they would take a poll and they'd say, how many times is this your second or is this your third? And one girl had taken it like 15 times. Yeah. And I'm like, you're crazy. This is expensive, because again, I don't like to spend money. I'm like, I'm not paying this 15 times. And I know why she did it, because there are so many nuggets. I've taken it twice. Mm-hmm. Once I took it virtual. I don't recommend that. If you're scattered at all with like even distractions or anything, it doesn't work. And it's just a whole different level when you're in person. And I think the best part that I got out of it, that I didn't realize I got out of it, was until later, is that you learn how the person in front of you wants to be communicated with. Yeah. And if you learn yourself from your own KPA, you also learn how you're responsive to it. Yeah. And so there's just so many takeaways there. And it took me a little while to figure that out. Mm-hmm. It was not an easy process, because I like to fall in love with my candidates, and I'm like, oh, you're perfect. You're so sweet. I'm gonna love you. But I didn't dig any deeper, and I should have asked those harder questions. Yeah. And now I do. And I told myself with this last one, because I just hired my admin 2 months ago almost, and and she's like my first one that I'm like, oh my goodness, you're like a little rock star. And I told myself that I was going to do, I don't know, did anybody go to the family reunion?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you did. So there was a couple I think it was in more than one class, mm-hmm. where they said hire 2 at a time, so they almost compete with each other. Well, I went in with that mindset. I was going to hire 2 admin at the same time, and the best one would stay, or I would, if they were both rock stars, I'd find a position for the second one, or they could be the second. And it was perfect, because both of them were great options, but one of them weeded themselves out before they even got into the position. Yeah. And the person who came in, man, and I told her, I was very transparent with her. I said, look, this is going to happen. You're not going to be the only one. There's going to be others. And I think it created more of that drive to be even better. Mm-hmm. And even though on day 1, she's the only one that started, mm-hmm. she already had that mindset. I mean, and she was completely different than all the rest of them. I sent her a text message, and I was like, hey, I read this awesome book. I want you to read it before you become my admin. I said, and I'll make it easy for you. I bought you the audio book.
That's awesome.
And I said, you can listen to it on your way to work.
That's amazing. And
she did. It's called The Force Multiplier. I'm going to tell you, do the audio version, because they give extra stories, and it's the rainmaker and the assistant both telling their sides of the story. Oh. And it is amazing.
Adam Hergenrocker wrote it?
Yes. It's so good. And so
Adam Hergenrocker. He's a KW agent, mm-hmm. that builds a team here and wrote the book with his admin.
Force Multiplier. Force Multiplier, one more time.
Yes.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah.
She's not sponsored yet.
No,
awesome.
Not yet.
I'm gonna go back into this, and then you guys don't worry. We're gonna have at the end of this, you guys can ask any question that you guys want. Just I love it's a book. You guys could obviously it's a mastermind style interview, so don't worry, you're not interrupting or anything. But going back, I keep seeing you reference something that really I feel you said pivoted your business when we talked privately was a MAPS coach, but you don't have to spend money. How did the decision happen, huh? So how did that work? Because it's $1,000.
It's kind of a funny story because I am so thrifty and I don't love to spend money. It has to be something I really think through. And I had a productivity coach, and I was kind of stalling. And my first year, I was asked to speak on the panel at KDIP at the family reunion.
Wow, your first year in real estate?
Yes. I was asked to speak on their rookie panel.
That's amazing.
And I actually told KWRI no.
Wow.
Because I was very much like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. I don't have that. I don't know why this is unique. Everything is normal. And I didn't really know. I didn't know, like, nobody ever told me. Like, you know how I hear it all the time now because I guess I listen more, but you hear the national average is 4 to 6 units that people sell during the year. Yeah. And I had no idea. Like, I literally did not know this. And so it was never a limiting belief for me. And so when they asked me to be on the panel, I was like, you don't want me. I'm normal. Like,
at 35 units your first year, pretty normal.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know.
So normal.
I had no idea that was different. I didn't know. My office never kind of drew attention to it. So I literally lived in this little bubble, and then all of a sudden KWRI is like, come speak on the panel. And I'm like, no thanks. I don't want to do that. And it's not my cup of tea. I don't want to do it. And you're going to probably have somebody who sold like $20 million worth of real estate up there, and I'm really like, oh, over here I'm with my 8, and I'm no. But so I ended up doing the panel. I got talked into it. There was a lot of bribery involved from my OP. He'll love that I told you guys that. But I did do it, and it was a good experience after all, because I kind of learned a little more of like, like this is kind of neat. And I was very stalled in my production. I wasn't moving quite as fast with the productivity coach. And I'll take this back too, take it back a step. Nobody told me there was another level. And so, I was really in this bubble, and we went to a family reunion, and our team lead now, his mother-in-law, I think it is heavily involved in MAPS. And he's like, you need to talk to MAPS. And I'm like, I'm not paying for that. And so I got on the panel, and they asked me some questions afterwards, and I was like, oh no, I don't know these things. Like, am I supposed to know these things? Like, I have no idea, because we were not taught to track our numbers. We were not taught to, yes, I know, we do this now, but this I didn't know. And it wasn't just me, it was all 4 of us that were up there. None of us knew our numbers. None of us knew anything. I've told you what my beginning production was, and I told you what my to-date production was. I would have never known that then. And I don't like to not know, because that's my personality. And so I got off the stage, and I walked over to Garrett, and I said, let's go talk to your mother-in-law. I need to go have a conversation. So I talked to her, and I was very like, hey, this either I'm going to give it the 3-month shot, and if it doesn't work, I'm out. And I'm not willing to pay $1,000 a month for something that's not going to work. And I have very specific type of personality that I want. And she found it. She found it.
Do that. You can pick exactly who you want to work with in MAPS, and what you want them to gear your help to, right?
Right.
And you can change within your production. Have you changed yet, or you have the same MAPS coach?
So I have changed, but not because I wanted to. So my first MAPS coach was Mike, and he left MAPS coaching to do an expansion team. And so he didn't have the time to devote to MAPS coaching anymore. So I told him, I said, you're never going to get rid of me. You're stuck with me for life. You're just not going to get paid for it anymore. And that has been to this day, he
That's
still, he
awesome.
follows through. And anytime I need something, like,
Amazing.
he's always opened up even his admin to me because I didn't have admin. He flew to California. He lives in Colorado. He flew to California multiple times with his admin in tow to meet with me and mastermind with me in person. Like, whole nother level type of coaching. And I love him. He's amazing. And then he, you know, left MAPS coaching and he put me in contact with Alan. Also love Alan. He's a different personality, but we still mesh really well. And he likes to play devil's advocate a lot because I get, you know, gung-ho on an idea and he's like, have you thought about this? And I'm like, no, of course I didn't think about that, Alan. And he brings me back to reality. And he's been amazing for the hiring process because he really kind of puts me in my place, first of all, and says, no, that's wrong. You need to go back and do this again. You need to go ask these questions. And then he's been super invaluable because he actually interviewed every person I've ever got close to hiring. And he's done one of the interviews. And that is just an incredible resource. I mean, you get 30 minutes with them. And so I'm paying $1,000 for 30 minutes every week. I'm not getting just 30 minutes a week. I get him to, you know, review my future hires, you know, or he'll send me over documents. I'll say, hey, I had this idea. Has your team done this? He'll be like, oh yeah, let me send it over to you. I don't have to do the legwork to find something. I mean, those are resources that you would normally have to pay for. And for $1,000, I'm getting all of this. And I even got that with Mike too. So incredible. And I've always increased my production year over year with a MAPS coach. And I don't know if that would have happened quite as much and as fast if I had not. I'm a wholehearted believer of coaching now when I was not. I was the anti, like, very, very never. 100%. 100%. The $1,000, I'm like, here, take it.
Even like me as a team leader, I have one. It's I don't know what I do without a coach. Like,
it's accountability.
Accountability and just, like you said, resources. I can text something and then be like, oh, look, try this. I've done that before. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
And they're your biggest cheerleader, too. Like, every time we have an award ceremony, the person I call first is not my husband. Don't tell him that. It's my MAPS coach. I send him the text, and I'm like, look at what I did.
We'll send him the link.
Because, honestly, like, he's my business partner. And
yeah, that's amazing.
That's
a
who...
great way to see it. That is exactly what they are. The business partner is someone that's pushing you, right?
Yeah, so husband gets to be number 2.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How many admin do you have right now, currently? Do you have?
I have multiple now. So I skipped a step in there. The in-house admin was who I was hiring. I have a TC, and I have a virtual assistant, and I have an in-house assistant. So I have 3.
That's amazing. Do you have any agents that work with you?
I have showing assistants. I have 2 of them.
So you literally are following the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
That's exactly the models that, so you're implementing the models that Crazy with KW.
What's your profit margin?
Very, very, very nice. Last year,
Let's hear it. Motivation, great question.
So last year, my profit and loss statement was after taxes. I want to say like 400. No, it was like high 400s. Pretty good. Pretty darn good.
At 700, you're like a 76%. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty darn good. Thank you.
The goal's 40. Just so you guys know, most of the teams was from some of our competitors. They're at 11%, 12%. If you ask them, the people that have the most awards does not mean they take money home.
It's true. And so she's correct, because I had that conversation with my first MAPS coach because, of course, my first MAPS coach, when I got to the next family reunion, the second family reunion that I went to, I was like, I want to be them. And he goes, no, you don't. And I was like, what? I want to be that person. They have lots of money. I want to be that one. And he goes, they really don't, though. That's a flashy number, but they were not purposeful with their finances.
And they do it for ego, not for success.
Right.
The past #1 agent in California, he was #1. His name is Tom Daves. He's a really nice person. He was with KW, now he's with EXP, and he was really nice. And then he was like trying to like mastermind with me, and then I said, well, before I mastermind with you, I'm very picky of who my profits are. I don't just, like Gary Keller teaches us, pick your profits, who you learn from. So I said, before I mastermind with you, can I see your financials? And he was at 11% profit.
And see, this is the hardest thing for me too.
With a 2.6 million GCI, 11%, I'm like, wait, so you took home a few $100,000? I'm making more than that now, I'm taking more home. Like, I don't want to learn from you.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say that to him, but I did not. I was like, I'm clarifying this.
She's clarifying, she didn't tell
Yeah.
me this to his face,
I'm
okay?
taking my business another direction right now. But
Yeah.
let's be real, we only have 24 hours in the day, and I protect my mind from knowledge that is useless. I don't want to just learn from people that are not making money or that are like, how many agents tell you they're so busy, selling $1,000 a month? What do you think of that? Just,
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, like, KW has really taught you leverage, if anything.
Yes. Yes.
So leverage is super important, and that's exactly what we teach you to do. What's the first hire you guys make? What's the first hire? There you go. Everyone can answer
Second
that.
hire, admin.
Yep.
Second hire?
Third
Admin.
hire, showing assistant. Yeah.
So technically I did 3 admins and then a
But
showing
you
assistant.
can. So you've built this entire incredible business with a powerful admin team, and you felt the cause and effects of a bad hire in the beginning and whatnot. So I'm asking a important question. How is your life now? Like, do you have time with your son?
So it's still a challenge because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a workaholic. I actually enjoy working long hours. It's weird. I just recently made my team all do. We did a challenge this month, and it was a bingo board. And so I made it very challenging and specific to their roles with all their weaknesses on them. And they're like, this is really hard. And I'm like, I know. So my in-house assistant, 2 of her blocks, one was get me to take 1 full day off, and one was to take a half day off. Wow. I did take a full day off. It was Easter, because nobody calls me on Easter. And I have not taken the half day off. It is also kind of my choosing. I will say that weekends I don't work quite as hard because I do have girls who do my open houses for me now. Yeah. I've leveraged that out. But it is a big balancing act. I'm a lot better than I was, especially in the very beginning, where I'm sure you guys have all been there. You're like, I have to respond to this text. I have to give this person a call at 11 o'clock at night. And you're like, gosh, like, what other business does that? No one. And so now my rule is because my husband does not live here. My husband lives in Yuma, and so we go between 2 bases. But what my rule is if I'm going to enjoy my family time, or if I have things to do, I will get back to you in the morning. And so I don't usually respond to texts after about 7 o'clock. If it is after 7 o'clock and it is like urgent, like I always tell them, I'm like, you can always text. I just may not answer after 7. And if you text and it's like something that I'll read it, I make sure that I don't have that read receipt on there. But I'll read it and I'll say, well.
Realtor, you all have that off, right?
Yeah, don't tell all my clients these secrets either.
No, but you're setting it. You have to set up a standard for
the boundaries, yes.
The boundaries.
And so,
a life worth living.
Yeah, and so I would put that. I would tell my clients, like, hey, I never want you to feel like you're going to panic and not sleep tonight because I'm going to have a worse version of you in the morning. I don't want that, because a lot of times it's just communication. So if it is something that they're freaking out about, then I might call them at 8, 9 o'clock at night. That's really the only exception to that rule. The other exception is I do a lot of military overseas people, and sometimes the only time that they can actually communicate with me is in the middle of the night. So if I'm taking on that client, I know that expectation is going to have to be there, or at least a version of it if I have to have a phone call with them. So
that's incredible. So I guess I'll go back a little bit more and ask you a little bit of a question that I'm curious about too. Is Knowing no one from that one first transaction, how did you build up your database?
That's a great question. So I think that I do a lot of things a little differently. So let me go tell you all the things I did wrong first.
Yeah, tell me your top 5 challenges you overcome.
Okay,
That's a better
so
question.
one, I didn't have a database for like 2 years, guys. It was not a smart thing.
Yeah.
I know, right?
It's crazy.
And I did everything wrong. Don't do that. Have a database. Command is free. I love free. Use it. Use it.
Amazing.
And it is an easy way to connect with your clients. So that was my first problem that I had. But because I come from a customer service background, and so I'm listening, because I would go to like the team meetings and stuff, and we'd do like masterminds based off of our production and whatnot that first year, and I'm like, you guys are having challenges around that? Like, it just seems so simple. Like, talk to your clients. And because a lot of them, the main issue in my GCI area and unit count, which at the time, I was 6 months in, I was probably like 15 units, 16 units, somewhere in there. I was like, these guys are not communicating with their database. They're not communicating with their people. They're not communicating and telling them that they're cared about. And I'm like, that's why you have no referral business. And so I made it very purposeful. Not so much that first year, it was kind of developing that first year. But the second year, I put things in place. So I have events that are planned out throughout the entire year. We just did an Easter one. And then I will also take a step back that I learned recently at Family Reunion. And if any of you saw, I think it was Meg Daly who spoke.
The major,
yeah.
major state town.
And she was talking, I think it was her, that said that she classifies her database by A's, B's, and C's.
Oh, that's right.
And yeah, so the people who give her the most amount of business, they're kind of showered with love and, given all the perks and stuff.
B clients, C clients.
So, but it makes sense, guys, because you're putting your hard-earned money into the people who care about you, promote you, give you something back. I mean, it's not always going to be that give and take, and you should still touch the other people, but why would you do the same thing for everybody? And I did not think of this because I was doing everything. I was like, oh, well, I'll give you all the same stuff. It's fine. And I really kind of put this into action more regionally, because we are, I service everything from I live in Roseman, which is close to Edwards Air Force Base. And then I go all the way up to Tehachapi, California City, and I will go on the other direction, going to Palmdale, Lancaster, Santa Clarita, all these different areas. Well, it's not reasonable to drop everything at people's houses in a day or two. It's really hard. I know this because I've done it. And so I told my team, I said, we're going to do an Easter egg hunt, but we're going to do it in their front yards. Mom and Dad don't have to leave. And so we sent out a Google. Smart. Yeah, we sent out a Google form, and we said, we gave them the option, do you want us to hide Easter eggs for your little ones? And if they said yes, I made it an option that they couldn't, not check to submit the form. But the option that they couldn't uncheck was they agreed to have me put a sign in their front yard that says Easter egg hunt sponsored by Jessica Dixon.
Write that down, everybody.
Yeah.
Right now.
It was super inexpensive. I think we paid maybe $300 or $400 in candy and eggs. We didn't even do that many houses. We only did, I think, 25 houses. I mean, because I only focused on Roseman, which is my main community, because I live there, my farm. And then I only sent the forms to people with kids under 12. So we decided after 12, they're kind of like, candy would be fun, but they don't care about finding Easter eggs. And then my team and we got together. It was a great bonding experience. And I drove, they threw eggs out. And they went through and they would hide them in areas based off of their ages. So parents would be like, oh my gosh, you did a good job.
Yeah, age group.
Yeah, I mean, if they were a baby, it was in the yard. But if it was, an older kid, maybe it would be up a little higher or something.
That's awesome.
And so, but people loved it. And everything I do has an intention behind it for a social media shout out. And the whole reason behind that is because what are people going to do when they're excited about something that was special to them?
Post about
They're
it.
going to post and they're going to tag you in it. And so that's exactly what they did. They posted me and tagged me in it all day long on Easter. And what is everybody doing on Easter? They're looking at their Facebook because they're bored. They're, nothing's open. They're sitting at home. They've already had Easter dinner or breakfast or whatever they decide to celebrate, or they just don't go out and do anything because it's Sunday. And there's my post with their children on it. My sign is on it. And they're finding Easter eggs. And people are going, oh, how do I get that person? And then I went and picked up the signs, 3 or 4 days later. So that way I'd have them for later on. The signs, they cost me, because I bought more than I needed because I knew some of the signs would probably disappear with the wind because we live in a very windy area, and they were just on little stakes. But I had nice signs put up. And I think each sign cost me like $250 or something, $275. I mean, it was really cheap. And they're things that I can use in the future. So I don't even call that a big expense because I'll do this again next year. But that's one of the examples that I recently did with my database. Then I have my yearly database things where we do a gingerbread contest. I'm telling you, you're missing out if you don't do a gingerbread contest.
Do you have them post on social media? Or
They post it on social media.
Okay.
It's the only way that they can enter. It has to be posted on social media, and you have to tag. Yes, and then you choose one of your clients' kids to judge it, because now they're personally involved. And you can give away something small. Like I give a $25, $50, and $100 gift certificate to Amazon, and I give it to them right before Christmas, and so that way they have Christmas spending money. And I'll tell you, one of those houses got me $1 million listing. All because I dropped it off at their kid's doorstep.
Jessica, so now you're focused on your past clients, but how did you get them to begin with? Did you call them, door knock, what did you do in the beginning?
So my big thing in the very beginning was open houses. I love open houses. I give them more to my showing assistants now because I got to keep them fed and happy.
Yeah.
But I still will do 1 or 2 of them a month because I love them and I love the connection with people because it feels natural to me. I hate cold calling, but I will do it. It's not my favorite. In fact, we plan to do what's called a no day very soon, which if you don't know what a no day is, it's where you call and whoever gets the most amount of no's is the winner, because if you get the most amount of no's, you're likely to get more yeses, right? So that's what we plan to do. And
That's funny. I went to an ISA thing where we did cold calling like that, and for every no you put $1 aside.
I like
For
that.
every no you put $1 aside because you're closer to getting the pot.
I like that.
So that was kind of a cool thing. And then to make it hurt, you do $10.
Ooh.
$10 per no, because all I need is one yes.
You're giving them ideas. You're giving them ideas.
Oh, I'm saying. That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
So you cultivate leads by open houses. You'll cold call
At first.
At first, right?
Yes.
Because you built a database. So the key word I'm hearing you say is that you did the activities that it took to build your database, but once you had a certain number in your database, you focused strictly on them.
No.
Right? No?
No,
Okay.
but the majority is on the database. I
Okay.
would say most of my marketing and my events and stuff are all focused around the database, but I had to pivot during that pandemic. You couldn't do open houses, so you're like, how do you get some clients?
Yeah.
So I was already heavy into the social media anyways.
Okay.
I figured it out my very first year. I made $110,000, I believe, from social media alone. And
Is that like Instagram, Facebook, what do you do?
so I only focused on Facebook and Instagram.
Wow.
That was it. And I would just lead convert from these Facebook people, and it worked. And so that's how I ended up building that database, because those people came to me through social media and then converted them, put them in my sphere of influence, and now they're my past clients. And now I even get people who are like, I see your face everywhere. And I'm like, I like that, because I'm intentional with what I post. I don't do most of my posting now. Most of my posting is my VA, so you can outsource it.
Yeah.
I enjoy social media to a degree, but it's not my favorite. I mean, I've worked with social media for so long that I'm sure you've all felt it. You get burnt out. You go through spurts. And so I knew that with going through those spurts and having that thing, I needed to have somebody who could do it constant. So I do sprinkling in of the things that I want to do, which would be the more relatable posts. And then the VA, she posts all the, just solds, just listed, and she'll do like little real estate pieces. And then I will do like hey, I'm at a open house, or I'm at a appraisal, and or we'll do a funny video or something, and that's my contribution. And so I knew that because I made so much money in social media, I had to have somebody who would be a constant presence, and they don't know any different.
Yeah.
My sphere of influence, my audience, all those people have no idea that's not me posting.
They don't.
No.
They won't. Trust me. Like,
They have no clue.
I love that about you. I love that you're being like 100% honest, and it's kind of interesting because you say a lot of your stuff is for social media, but then a lot of the database stuff you do is intentionally for social media. So do you go and respond to comments that people are they tagging each other?
Yes.
Do you comment? Do you DM them?
Yes. So when I do something like the egg hunt, I comment on all those items myself. If it is on something like that's posted, I usually have a packed day and I'm not always able to respond.
Yeah.
So my VA, Teresa, she will go in and she'll post as me.
That's awesome.
Nobody knows. She has admin access. Use it. I mean, and a VA is not very expensive. I mean, I pay $1,500 a month for a VA. And she does all sorts of stuff.
And it's 40 hours a week, yeah?
We have connections here too, you guys. We have VAs that know command at a high level too. I mean, we have those connections.
I pay
Just
my
throwing
VA
that out there.
$1,000 a month, and she's 40 hours a week. Yeah.
Who do you do yours through?
It's just the Team Rally in Hawaii.
Oh.
They started their own virtual.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah,
I pay more than that. I might need to know this.
We'll give you the information.
I mean, we do have the trainer. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We had a trainer. She didn't know command.
Got it.
But I prefer that because I want and by the way, she's not my assistant. She's my assistant's assistant. I've never. I haven't let her report.
She's just our assistant trained the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've
Super
never.
smart.
I don't want her to report to me. I don't want one person to report to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, super smart.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, I feel like we already got so much like golden nuggets, and we're not done yet, so don't get up, but I just want to thank you again because
Well, thank you.
just to come pour into us and tell us your secrets of success is just a big reason why I love KW and that culture that we have, and the fact that you met Sophia. Thank you, Sophia, for talking to her on the bench.
No, we hit it off, and I was like, you have to come talk to my agents, because she was like, we really bonded over her story. I was like, you earned $700,000. You're in Gary's top 100. She's getting mentored. So Gary Keller has a group that we also strive to be in. Is that when you're in the top 100 individual agents in the country, he personally mentors you. Gary Keller. So she gets mentored by a billionaire. Do you think that affects your mindset?
Absolutely.
Leads me into my next interview question.
You had your call with Gary today, yeah?
Yeah.
So my next question, all right, since we brought it up, it's gonna lead me into that is all of this production, everything that you've done, has given you so many opportunities. Is that right?
Yeah.
And one of them is, like she said, Gary's top 100. Tell us about that. Like, what is it like?
I love it because it's just a whole nother level. At our office, there's really only a few of us that make this kind of production. And so it's really hard to mastermind because the office does try to do masterminds, but it's like the top 20%. Well, it's a different conversation between each of these levels. Not that it's bad. It's just once you're at a different level, you need a little bit more. You want to be, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be the person that's like, I don't know anything, teach me. And that's what Gary's group has really given me. I mean, most of those people in Gary's group, they've been real estate agents for 20, 30 years. I've been a real estate agent since late 2017. And so it's not been very long. And so I go to this thing and I'm like, how long have you been in here? And they're like, oh, only like a year or two. And they've been an agent for 20, 30 years. And I'm like, you have so much knowledge, share with me. And I've had some amazing connections with people. Like, I don't even room with my own office when I go to family reunion anymore. I'm like, which one of you ladies wants to stay with me? I need to pick your brain.
And that's smart. That's exactly say go meet people, go social.
Yeah.
Go socialize. Go meet someone that makes a lot more than you do.
Yeah.
So luckily our OP does all that here. That's one person. But we also have Steve Ryder. He's one of our investor partners that teaches classes here. Very grateful for this community, and like even you with Gary Keller, the Gary Keller himself. What are so being a part of that group, what are 3 things that you've learned that you wish you knew sooner that you could probably share with us here for free?
Building the bench is number 1 out of everything, because
Always
my
have a bench, right, for
gosh,
each position.
I mean, you think you hire somebody and you're like, they're going to be with me forever. No, they probably not, you know. And how many times have you hired somebody? I mean, you might not have hired somebody in this position, but maybe you were a business owner before and they only stayed with you for a couple of years. And then you had to start over again. It's painful to start over again because now you've taken on all those roles. So building the bench and having somebody who is kind of like that in the back waiting, like, oh, they could be a great opportunity. Like right now, I have 2 that I would, if I ever lost Megan, I know that they would come in a heartbeat.
So that means that even when you have a full team, just to, like, that means that you're only, when you think you have the perfect assistant, like I hear a lot of agents in here and say, oh, I have an amazing assistant. I'm like, awesome. But the way that Gary Keller teaches us is, yeah, you're only 1 heartbeat away, 1 car accident away, 1 better job offer away from losing them. And then you have to start all over from a place of pain.
Yeah.
So what that means is, like, for me, every single Tuesday, I'm interviewing people for positions I may have in the future, because I'm building a big world.
Yeah.
I intend to have 50 offices, and I want to have 100 rentals, and so I need people. No one succeeds alone. So I'm interviewing for future opportunities.
Right.
So you're just meeting people, and people, what do you tell them? I'm like, oh, I'm building a big world. I want to get to know you, and at some point I'll come get you.
Yeah.
You know? I interviewed Jennifer, my assistant. I interviewed her 6 years before, no, 3 years before I actually went and got her. I built a relationship with her, and then when I was in the area, she went and she quit her job on the spot to come with me because we had to build a relationship. And she did it with me 4 years, and she knows on Tuesdays, I'm constantly interviewing people just in case she ever leaves me.
And I did tell Megan that.
She hears me. I'm like, hey, you leave me, I got A, B, and C.
We
Right
call
here.
it,
Yeah.
we call it Talent Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Talent
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Oh, I like that. I
So
like
it's
that.
You know, she helps me call people back sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on our calendar as Talent Tuesdays, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Talent Tuesdays is
Yeah.
when you decide to build a team.
Or profit share,
Yeah, when you decide to build a 2 things, I'll say 1 thing. When you tag your database, Jessica, tag it also for the profession they're in.
I already do that.
Oh, you do that? Yeah, the room, yes. You tag it like if they're like a plumber or whatever. That way when you use people, use your own people from your sphere for whatever you need them, right?
That's what you've
And
done,
then,
right?
Oh, yeah.
When you decide to be a business owner, like your job, like I was around the top 3% Latino earners in the whole country at Stanford. Like, and when I went there with a mission like a month ago, I asked, I said, what do you do all day? Like, wait, tell me what your day's like. And I was intentional. I went and spoke to like 20 people. I met the guy that started Total Taxes.
What?
He's a young guy who's a realtor, started that. Like, I met all these people, and they all told me the same thing. They're my only job is to constantly recruit and build talent. Like every profession, the founder of a beer, the founder of a tax company, financial planner, like when you decide to do this, like, so those of you in the room that go, well, I don't have time to do that because I'm selling houses, you have to understand, you hit a ceiling of achievement because all you're doing is running around doing just selling houses all day long. You're not, and now you're not gonna get to other levels of income where like, here's Jessica, licensed 5 years, year to date she's earned $400,000. She wouldn't be there if she didn't have the mindset and to hire. Come on, like you wouldn't pay a coach $12,000 a year to earn $400,000 a year today.
Absolutely.
But
You gotta. You gotta.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. Yeah. So it becomes, it's like, you have to be willing to say, okay, I know how to be an agent, but I'm gonna be humble and know that I don't know how to be a business owner.
Well, and
You're gonna learn
that was
skills.
one of the hardest things that I had to learn because
Yeah.
Gary, I mean, here's your other nugget. Gary said it's never a one person show. There's always going to be 2, 3, 4 people. And he's like,
No one
you didn't
succeeds
get here by
alone."
yourself. You probably took an airplane. So you used a pilot to get here. And we're like, oh yeah. So it's not,
awesome.
it's not us traveling alone. We're traveling with a whole group of people.
What a great
And
takeaway.
I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Because, I mean, even if you are like truly on your own without an admin, you're probably leveraging your team leader, your MCA for certain things, your OP, like you're asking them things. I mean, I went to lunch with my team leader yesterday and I was like, these are my ideas. Let's implement them. And we do this all the time. I come with all the crazy ideas.
You're the best.
But it is something that you can leverage even on a small scale because those people want to see you succeed too. Even before I had admin, I'd go to my team lead and I'd be like, Garrett, I have this problem. What do you got for me? Mm-hmm. And I mean, even their knowledge is something to leverage you with.
Yeah, you have a good point. We do want to see everybody succeed. I want to see all of you succeed. And like one thing that I've learned even being in the position since you brought it up is that we can't want it more than they do. And it seems like you really want this. So what is your day like? What is your motivation like? We always talk about a big Y in KW. How does that, like that's a big thing we talk about. But really, like, it's incredible. 70 units is a lot.
I will tell you, like, you hear people say, their big why is this or that and stuff. It really is very simple for me. I just like to win. I just like to be number one. I have
and that's why.
That is my only thing. I love being the number one. Number two is, nah. Number one, yes. But I am the first one to congratulate that person if they did make number one over me. That is the difference though. So I'm not, upset over it or anything. But I do tell them, I'm like, I'm going to get you next year.
I love that. I love that.
And I wasn't number one last year. Last year I was number 3. And we were all super close. I was number 3 by, I think, 20,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, no. Sorry. No, he was crazy. He had a lot more. I think he had like $75,000 or $100,000 over both me and Ileana. But when we left the yearly awards, and I think this is important for any of you, I texted him. I was like, "Where'd you go? You were number 1." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm done. It's fine." And I was like, "No, I wanted to tell you I was proud of you." And he was really touched by that because I will tell you, it is lonely at the top because a lot of people go,
they're fine.
They're fine.
They're busy.
They already know, but they don't necessarily know because it's, it feels good when somebody says, you did a great job. And so even if you are number 2 or number 3, you should always tell that other person that they did an awesome job. And so I make that as an intentional thing. And I also do that in my relationships with other agents because we are in a shifting market, guys. Those people you're going to work with again. And even if they're jerks, I still tell them that they're wonderful and that I enjoy working with them. And because at the end of the day, if they see my name on an offer, I don't want them to run away from me. So, your relationships matter in all aspects, not just your clients.
That's incredible. I feel like it's just amazing to hear a lot of things that you're saying. And some things do sound similar, be reminded more than you have to be taught, like Sophia says. But I guess I'm going to leave it here. What is one question I haven't asked you that you would like to share with people?
Most people want to know what my best lead generation source is. That's the question I get asked the most. Mm-hmm. And you'd think, because I've said the open houses, which I would say open houses gave me the most exposure. But I would say it was actually Facebook. Facebook was number 1. Not Instagram, it was Facebook. And I was very intentional because of Ignite. Because Ignite was like, you have to they want you to call your database and talk to all these people. And I'm like, none of these people are in California. I'm not going to sell them a house in California. you can be their referral partner.
Yes, you can.
And you know how many referrals I sent out last week? 5.
Wow. It's
5.
incredible. We have Ignite coming to our regional area here, and we have Jacqueline Copeland, our very own PC, teaching one of the sections here. So I'll give you guys those dates. And if you're not with KW, I'll still give you the Zoom links. It's still so valuable, still worth it, and you'll learn a lot, okay? So I love Ignite. I'm going to take it again. I'm going to take Bold. Bold's coming up in June. I'm going to take it.
I have. I'm not going to lie, because you wanted me to be truthful. I'm not a huge fan of Bold. It's too rah-rah for me. But I also like to win. So in there, I needed to have the most amount of dots on the board. So I did all the activities without complaining, and I did it all because I had to win. And I did. I had the most closed business during that. It did. It did.
So you got number 1, so it did help you.
Yes, but I will say that most people love it. And so just because I didn't love it doesn't mean that you won't.
I think like honesty is what matters.
And I've taken it twice, too.
And you didn't like it.
I didn't. No.
I've taken it 3 times now, and I loved it. I hated it the first time.
Maybe that's why.
I did it with Cody Gibson, though, so he was great.
I don't even remember what. I love Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking dude.
Huh? Well, yeah.
Gets distracting sometimes,
He was the expansion
yeah,
guy.
He's the expansion for KWE, yeah.
So I went to his class.
Do you get a mastermind with him now in the top 100?
He's not usually in our mastermind because he's not individual.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You have a leg up over him. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel really honored to even have.
Well, he's in teams. I'm sure he's in teams. He was on the call today.
I'm pretty sure he is. He's leading expansion. He has to be talking to him, right? There's
Yeah.
so many opportunities here. I'm gonna leave it up, open it up now. Questions out here in the audience.
So she answered. Mine was going to be, what's your primary lead generation?
I told you.
That was
That's awesome.
I heard you talk about a map code.
Maps.
What's that?
KW coaching.
I never answered that.
So they're somebody, they don't usually live here. They're usually someplace else. And, you know, when I first started, they didn't do Zoom because it wasn't pandemic time and nobody used Zoom. It's better, though, because then you actually have to show up to work on it. Because I remember I was not a morning person, guys, for those first 2 years. I was like, I'm going to work until 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and then I'll get up at like 9. And so my coaching days were my favorite because I didn't have to get dressed for that call. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic hit, and he's like, we're going to do this through Zoom. And I'm like, shoot, I got to put on at least this half of me. And then he used to make me stand up. And so I had to get fully dressed, even in the pandemic. But it was a good thing for me because, you know, it was accountability. And if I got dressed for work, even though I wasn't going anywhere but to the dining room table, I was in the mindset of I'm going to work. And so it was good.
Differently for yourself.
100%.
Laura,
100%.
I want to mention this. So MAPS Coaching is called, the coaching company that Keller Williams owns, and they're the #1 coaching company for all brand, like for in and outside of real estate. Okay? And you do have to be a KW agent to get coached with them. And but what's cool about it is that it's very, very, very strict. A lot of coaching companies, Town Ferry and all them, people that like fail as realtors could go become a coach, and not a MAPS coaching. Like you have to have like 75 transactions closed if you're an individual agent 3 years in a row before you could apply. You must have passed like all these KW courses. You must have like a very, very very profound knowledge of all the KW systems, like all the model systems, and you have to have proven it. So to coach individual agents, you must have proven to be an amazing one. And to be a team, like if you're coaching for teams or for leadership, like to be coached for me as an OP of an owner of a market center, I only get coached by people that actually have market centers that are making $1 million a year. So it's very, very strict. So it's very, very legit, and it's the best investment period. I hired my MAPS coach my second year into really, and I really believe that really helped me because I had the mindset of I don't like doing the paperwork. I'm not going to be writing off at 3 a.m. I'm not going to be working 7 days a week. I don't want to take lock boxes off and put up signs. Like I want to think bigger because I know that the people that work like that always get stuck at about 50 deals a year. You know, like it's impossible, and that's without seeing their family or taking days off. Like, you know, so I was like, I want to build a business where I could take time off. And I'm in a different season in my life. Like I'm in a different season. My goal was to create different streams of income. So last year I took 13 weeks off. This year, I'm like taking November off, cause I'm gonna go to Europe, right, with my family, but, so like I had these goals because, but like Jessica, in the beginning, it's okay to be in the beginning, when you're building the first 5-10 years, it's okay if you want to work more, because you're younger, you have goals to achieve. Eventually, your passive income, your rental, everything will pay off, and you won't have to. You understand?
And I've been better, like way better. So don't let my schedule scare you. I did go to family reunion, and I took 2 weeks, completely 2 weeks off.
Yeah, you enjoyed
And-
yourself there.
Yeah, yes, I went to Disney World. I like Disney.
Oh my gosh, I did too, and I went to Universal.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We have a lot in common.
Yes, I like this.
Let me pick your brain.
Okay.
Wait, before I forget, you guys, I almost forgot to ask her, what are your goals for this year, and what are you on track to complete? Almost
So
forgot. What is
I
your goal now?
I want to close 140 units, and I want to make at least 1.4 million in GCI.
I think you're going to.
I think so.
So you're going to close 1.4.
Yeah. Right now we've
Wow.
closed 46.
46 so far, 401 GCI.
That was for the first quarter.
Oh,
Right
wow.
now I'm at 450.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right, man. I'm honored to even have interviewed you. So
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
for coming here, and it's something that we seek to do here. We try to constantly bring value to the agents, and we have those high level conversations. So I'm sorry you didn't have those conversations when you first started, but look where you're
Oh,
at now. And thank you for coming.
it's
to
great
front of
now.
People here.
I had to go through a learning curve.
It happens, and you know
Mhm.
what? Everybody does things a little bit differently. There's no right or wrong way.
Mhm.
But the best way to learn is by failing forward, right?
Yes.
It's
The failures actually grew me.
incredible.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You guys get the questions.
You can ask whatever you want.
How many listings, I mean, of the transactions that you've done so far, how many listings have you done?
So in the first quarter, I did 19 listings out of the 36. I usually hold about 15 to 20 signed listing contracts at all times.
And again, so Facebook being your number one lead generator, what would be your second one? Or-
Now open houses, because now we have open houses again. When we were completely virtual and you couldn't have open houses, it was the social media and database only. That was where I got all my business.
For your showing assistants that you have, how do you structure that? When did you hire your first one, or how does that work?
So I hired them. So Ashley came on when she was my client. She actually called me about the assistant position, and I'm like, no, sorry, you're not assistant material. I went shopping with you. Who else is going to lay on the floor and measure the space for a bed? That's not an assistant, that's a future agent. You're figuring out the space with your body. You're gonna do some weird things as an agent. And she's like, really, you think so?
Clever,
It was so funny. I actually have a picture of her like
really?
this.
So you
Yes.
wanted to measure how long her bed
Yes,
would be?
her and her boyfriend. I walk around the corner and there they are, laying on the ground, holding hands. And I'm like, you guys are weird. I love it.
That's so cool.
But she has a very similar personality to me, and so I was like, all right, I could see this. I could see this working out. So I said, let me give you the KPA, because I'm like, I don't want to tell you what my idea is first, because what if I'm wrong? And so I gave her the KPA, and she scored very well. And I was like, okay. And she was in Florida at the time. And I said, well, when you get back, let's interview. And I sat down with her, and I had only seen from the client side, where she's the client, I'm the agent, and it was a whole nother world. She is younger, and so she's also hungry, and I really appreciate a hustler. I will not do well with you if you don't hustle. I will eat you alive, and you won't last with me. Yes, and so
I can see why you got along on that bench.
yes. And I saw that in her, and she's a hungry person. She's like, yeah, and she's a sponge. She loves to learn. And that, I told you that in the beginning, like, you have to be willing to grow and you have to be willing to learn. Like, we do a weekly meeting, we do a book club. And so you are required to feed your mind, as well as you have to, we talk about your transaction issues and stuff like that. So I coach them individually, and then I coach them as a team.
That's awesome.
But what was your original question? I know there was something else there.
How do you structure that?
Okay, so what exactly are you wanting to know?
I mean, do you pay her by transaction? Do you pay
Yes.
her leads?
So both. Because last year I did almost all listings. I did 56 listings last year and next to no buyers. But I know that I left a lot of buyers on the table, and because every listing side generally has a buyer side, whether it is finding their next agent in their next state or a buyer side here. And I could have been more intentional on getting like their friends to buy and stuff. And everybody bought last year because the interest rate was great. I even bought a house last year. I was leaving money on the table. And so I was like, well, if I bring in a showing assistant, they are another me. And all she does is show houses. So she doesn't write the contract. She doesn't negotiate the contract. She goes to she'll go to like inspections, and she'll do the final walkthrough. That is it. All negotiations, everything else is me, and it's my name on the contract. So I pay her a percentage, but it's based off of how long she's been with me. So if she's been with me for 12 transactions, she gets a lower percentage. And if once she gets past that, it's a different percentage. And then after she gets past that 12 and it's her sphere of influence, she gets a better percentage. So she gets rewarded for bringing in her own people. So I want to keep them fed in that respect, like making some money. And I do give them leads. I don't actually pay for leads, guys. I don't pay Zillow. I don't pay Realtor.com. I never have.
Good, you have to give you guys command.
The only money that I put into any sort of lead source is the command Facebook option. So you don't have to spend gobs of money to get a lead. And most of that is just so my face is in front of them, because if they see my face 7-8 times, they're going to actually call me. You guys are both calling.
Yeah, the command Facebook option though is Keller Williams has an exclusive partnership with Facebook. So
Yeah.
we have and Google.
Yeah, because they have outside
And that's
KW agents.
exclusive. So the thing
They're
is that
like
like
not KW.
when she goes and she pushes a button, it automatically calculates like the algorithm that we have access to. So it's your list, yeah. So you get
You have to play with it
You have
though,
to play with it,
because
Different thing.
you have to make sure that you're putting the right tags in there,
Yeah.
and you have to also make sure that your wording is right. Use emojis, people. I know you're probably not, you've given me that face like you don't like emojis, but they work because they are a brighter thing that catches somebody's eye when you scroll through, and it works. And we as professionals don't necessarily want to text our clients heart, but if they're going through an ad, if it's just a block of text, it's boring. Put an emoji in there. Put like 3 or 4 of them. It's fine. And keep the text to like 2 sentences on top.
So,
My question really quick is, are your assistants licensed? Are any of them?
So my TC is licensed, so she can negotiate repairs. And she can talk to lenders and escrow. My current personal assistant, in-house assistant is not. And then of course I have the VA.
But the showing assistant,
Yes, they are both
because they have
licensed.
to show the property.
Mm-hmm.
well, you can show it without being licensed, you just can't talk about price.
Yeah.
Do you ever hire
That's true.
a assistant?
So Ashley, because remember she asked me about the assistant position, so I actually had her go get licensed. But I had her because I was like, well, you're in the process of doing this. Let's do an internship. So I made a deal with her, and I said, anything that you bring in, I will give you 25%. So it's like her giving me a referral. I'll give you 25%. All you got to do is send the lead. You don't have to do anything else, because she can't go to the inspections or anything because she's not licensed. So she could host my open house as long as my client was okay with it. So, and I have lots of listings, and my clients are usually fine with it. Mm-hmm. And so I would have her do that. I'd have her door knock. She just can't talk about the price. And she would just feed me those leads. And she did, I think, 4 before she was licensed.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had asked her a question about her top 3 things, and I think we only did building a bench.
Oh
Building
yeah,
a bench, what was my
building a
other one?
bench, and then the second one was leverage. What was it? Like the
I don't
top 3,
remember
the
what-
learning lessons.
I don't remember
that
what was the second one I said.
the top. I think I asked for like your most pain points, mistakes, the top 3 mistakes.
It was
that you
from
did.
Gary Keller, the top 3 things that she could discuss with us.
Yeah, and I gave you 2, and I don't remember what my second one was.
Well, what's one more pain point that you learned? Let's throw one out there. What's one thing that you did wrong that you wish you would have done right? In the beginning, for new rate.
So, I mean, the database was probably the biggest one, and I didn't know how important the database was. And I literally had nothing. I had a spreadsheet, kind of, like, of my current transactions and, like, some notes in my phone. I'm the queen of, like, the notepad in my phone. There's all sorts of great knowledge in there. But nothing was in a actual place. And I remember going to a family reunion with one of the people that were in my office, and he goes, "You don't have a database?" And I was like, "No, you do? Like, it's a thing?" And this is before Command came out, and so it was, I mean, I didn't know. And my favorite saying is, you don't know what you don't know. And I really didn't. I had no idea how much that was going to impact me when later on, especially with just even keeping track of what I said to somebody. I mean, I keep notes in my database. And I tell you, when I call my clients, I know their kids' names. I know when their birthday was. I send out a birthday card to them beforehand. I give them a call. I reach out to them. I also send something to them on Facebook or Instagram, depending on where they're at. I know where they're at. But I don't think I would have known that if I didn't have a database. Because even Command tells you if they have an Instagram and Facebook. There's a place for that.
Command tells you.
Yeah, and you can lead generate based off of that,
And the
too.
Command app mobile now lets me know whose birthday it is. And I
Yeah.
can just text them directly from the app. That's pretty neat stuff. Any other questions? Yeah, questions. Come on
Two
up.
questions.
Sure.
Since you do so many transactions, how do you keep them, like, what are your biggest tips for keeping, managing them?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
From opening to closing, how do you manage all of that? Like, what are your top
Your admin?
systems?
That was definitely a struggle. And up until recently, too. Because there was, at one point, I think the highest number I ever had in escrow at one time was 24. And I was losing my mind because I didn't know what was what. And even my TC, who, I mean, she's amazing. But I would have to, like, go, "Hey, Jess," because her name is also Jessica, which is very confusing for my clients. I'd be like, "Hey, Jess, this is what's happening, and they just asked me this, and I can't remember, and I don't want to go look through all my stuff. Can you just tell me?" So we created a system, and it came from Family Reunion. It's my favorite place to get all the knowledge.
KW Family Reunion.
But one of the teams had talked about Slack, and I don't know if you know what Slack is. It's a program. It's free. You know I love free. But it will archive your conversations. And how I ended up, I mean, I listened to this and I heard this and it resonated with me with Family Reunion. But I had a transaction that it was rough. And I was like, the other party is probably going to do a lawsuit. And I want to be prepared, and I can't have this everything everywhere if there's going to be a lawsuit involved. So with Slack, I had my TC do it. I have my assistants do it. I have the showing assistants. They all have a portal, and it connects to a tag, and each property has their own tag. And anytime you talk to the client or escrow or lender or whoever, that communication, what was said, is put in there. Wow. And so now, you know, you're supposed to be saving your email logs and your communication logs with these people. But what if you get sued, guys? You know, the more transactions you do, the more likely you're going to get sued at some point. Yeah. And you don't want to lose your money. Yeah. I know I don't. And you learned that. Yeah. Yep. So Slack was a great option for that. And so that's probably the best one I could give you because it's all there and It's so simple, and it goes, you can put who is in each category. So like, and I'm intentional on who is in each one, because I don't want my entire team to be on this one listing, because I don't need all the hands in the pot. I only need the people who are going to touch that file. So the people who are going to touch that file, I'm on everything. But the TC is on only the files that she's doing, nothing on the upcoming listings. So even the upcoming listings and upcoming buyers, there's pipelines for each person. And the only people who could see it, because the common question I got with my showing assistants were, okay, well, if you give me a pipeline person, if somebody else sees it, well, where's, is it truly mine?
Oh, I see.
And so I have a pipeline for each one, and then I have my own pipelines, and then I have a listing pipeline, and then I have a potential pipeline. I also have a upcoming listings of already signed contracts with details of what is coming on the market. So that way, if they have a buyer, they can match it to them, and we can double end it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And when I meet with those sellers, I give them what the house is going to likely be today, what it's going to be in a month, and what is it possibly going to be if it goes into a bidding war. And so that client is already prepared for that higher amount. And so I give that in Slack as to what it's likely to go under contract. So my girls can have that conversation while showing houses. If it matches what they're looking at, but they maybe don't have a shot at that house, it's great for the price ranges that everybody's in, but nobody can get the house because they're not cash or conventional, because we have a lot of VA. So, and a lot of people are afraid of VA. And so it's an easy way to match and control the market.
Man, I agree with you too. I'm a VA loan, so
Yeah.
I'm a veteran myself, so. You guys let me know about your upcoming market, your listings under 650 in this area, okay? But anyway, I'm being serious, okay? but it's our duty to educate our clients about the importance of that. And I love that you work with a lot of veterans too.
I do.
And how do you do anything special to for the veterans that you work with?
So what is most important to me is how much they save, and I have a lender who covers all their VA non-allowables and has lower closing costs. So my best resource is that, because I could go and take them to Veterans United or whatever, and no, do not. No, it's awful. Oh, it's awful. And they all think that they're getting a deal there, and I'm like, let me tell you, this guy will save you at least 1 to 1.5% in your closing costs.
Yeah.
And it's the service that he gives, because he also is military. So what he gives to them in return is just something you don't normally see in a lender. Like for him, he won't let the deal die. And I mean, he's even taken on some of their repairs. And we had a seller once that was like, nope, we're not going to do it 2 days before closing. And he's like, nope, just send me the bill. We're doing it, and they're closing on time. How many lenders do that? Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Which, by the way, if you have a VA person and you need him, I'll give him to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Yeah. I mean, even Tano here, he's one of our preferred lenders here. He did that. He did a help clear. Well, I don't know if I can say it's being recorded, but he did something. He did something to help the veteran and covered a little bit of closing costs. And
it makes the difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because in this market, the seller's not going to pay it. Because they'll get 5 other offers that are willing to pay over and no closing costs. Yeah, so you have to have a competitive lender in your pocket.
Yeah, thank you. You have the toughest duty too. If you guys don't know, it's so hard to hold the fort down when we're on deployment. So being a military spouse is you have to be strong. Just imagine having your partner leave for so long with uncertainty. So not only are you doing all this, you're doing all of this while living in different states. And I just want to say, like I said, I feel honored interviewing you, being next to you, and thank you so much for coming. Any other questions in here? I'm gonna get something for ask the question. I'm gonna get you something.
Okay.
I know you're really young still, but have you started thinking about your retirement? Have you
You're
done,
so sweet.
Rental?
I appreciate that.
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure you.
I'm mid-30s, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you don't want retirement. So,
I don't feel it.
But do you, I know you probably come across a lot of good deals. So have you gone into flipping or
Yes, so I own 3 houses now. I so I'm purposeful in where I buy, because in my area, I want to have rentals where I'm going to have a military buyer or a military renter. And so I want somebody who's already in my community, because there's just a different level of respect because it's military to military. They are a little bit easier on the houses. And exactly. And I might have bought the house next door to me, so he really can't do anything crazy. But the return is real high, because you have great people who are upstanding folks in the military who are renting, and it's short term, but you as a real estate agent, you have unlimited access to people. And you kind of get to cherry pick them. And how I got my renter, my house was not even done being renovated at that point. And I got my last rental because I was selling the house that he was renting. And he had rented this house for 10 years. The house looked brand new inside. I walked in and I was like, do you want to rent a house? It's way too big for you. It's more than you want to pay, but it looks nice. And at the time, there was no rentals on the market. And he was like, yeah, I'll take it. Single guy pays nearly $2,500 a month, and I paid $1,700 a month for this rental. So my profit is pretty good on it. Yeah.
His VAH, he's still making out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, I want to say my Jessica and I met in a divine appointment, and then I said, please come speak at the Market Center. As you can tell, she's very, very busy, and she took the time to take a whole day off to be here. Yeah. So how we can thank her as KW The Lakes, I want you, number two, please, I just want you to always keep her in mind for your referrals in the Antelope Valley. It's too far for you to represent anyone out there. For please, anyone that works in that, from Santa Clarita to Palmdale to all those areas she mentioned, to Hatchapee, I don't even know where that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, I was looking at a home there. So
Yeah? You should live there. It's nice. You could come work for me.
Yeah, and she...
Let's take our number 2.
Yeah, and she,
Oh,
so
you
please,
could come work for me.
So please, you guys, can I have your commitment that you guys will send her all the referrals in that area?
And
She's our friend here.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Over here. And let's give her a round of applause,
I
please.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
And you guys, and let's give our team leader a round of applause. He does an amazing job.
Yeah.
Great job for the interview.
Awesome. All right, she needs to eat now.
Yeah, let's get her to eat. And you guys, please take pictures, tag her. You guys can also thank her by going on her business page and writing her a 5-star Google review. Write her reviews about, give her some reviews. That will really help her.
Yeah.
Jessica Dixon.
And you should be having your admin do these things too for you.
Yeah.
After everything that we do, Easter egg hunt, anytime you give somebody something,
Ask for
a review.
They're happier to give it, right?
Yep. We just did the Easter egg review, and I think we have 17 reviews since Easter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a month ago.
So,
Yeah.
So you're gonna get like 30 more today, right? Because we're gonna give her a review.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And listen, if you guys want to take pictures, they're $5. Okay?
Wow, you're expensive.
Pictures are $5 with you.
Well, thank you.
KPA, want to do that? I'm gonna send it to you. Too bad. I'm gonna send it to you guys.
Yeah. Remember.
Halloween personality assessment.
Yeah.
Jacqueline's gonna do it with you. Productivity.
Yeah. We have our own version. Gary Keller created our own version of like an assessment that is tied to every role within real estate. So when someone applies, it tells you, and it gives you the exact steps on how to hire somebody. And by the way, the course that you want to do here, and in the meantime, Jay, all of us, we have even Melita, when I first met her like a year ago, she went